Hello everyone, in this video I'm going to show you how you can set up a Singleton class. This is a very useful type of class as it is one that can be accessed by any component in the game, but there is only ever a single instance of it. So the example we're going to use is a score manager that's going to manage a single instance of the score, but you may want to access that instance from anywhere in the game. So we're going to show you how that gets set up by first going and creating a new C# script called score manager. And we will open that up. Now, the thing most people tend to do is to create a public static, so it needs to be static because we only ever want a single instance of score manager, and they will call it instance. So this is typically what people do, and then within the awake method you will then define that instance to be this script. So if instance is equal to null, then we will say instance if instance is not, if instance is equal to null, we will say instance is equal to this script. So this instantiation of the script, or what the game object it's on. Else, we will say instance, we will destroy it. So we'll go else destroy this .game object. And this is a typical setup for a Singleton class. We have our static reference that we can get from any script. And if we, by accident, create two game objects in the scene, one of them will be set to instance and the other one will be destroyed. This has a couple problems, though. The first being that if I try to access the score manager before or within the awake method, it will return null and I'll get some errors. So there's a slightly better way to do this is instead of using a property, we will define, instead of using a variable, we'll define a full property. So we will go prop full, and I'll just hit tab and Visual Studio fills that in for me. And we'll make sure this is static. So we want this to be static, so we want to be able to reference it. And instead of an int, we will have a score manager. And once again, we'll call it instance. And then the public static reference we'll just call global. And so this is what we'll access. And within the get method, so we'll expand this out. Before we return the instance, we'll make sure it's been defined. So we will go if instance is equal to null, we will set instance equal to, and we will go find the object in the scene. So find object anywhere in the scene of type score manager, and we will set that to the instance. Now, if this returns null, that means it didn't find it anywhere in the scene. So what we're then going to want to do, if instance still is null, is we will create a game object and add a copy of the score manager to it. So we will go game object, new object equal to new game object. And then we will say instance is equal to new object dot add component, and we will type in score manager. So if all else fails, we will create a game object and add the instance to it, and we're going to set instance to it. And then we can finally return our instance. And that is a much more effective way of setting up a Singleton, because if for whatever reason I access this before the awake method is called, we'll still be able to create that object. Or if I simply forgot to add an instance of the score manager to the scene, it won't break the game, it will go and create the game object. So to test this out, what we will do for our score manager, we'll save a public, we'll call it an int, and we'll call it our score. So we will keep a reference to our score. Now, with all that in place, we can jump back into Unity and we'll create a script just to handle changing the text here. So create C# script. We'll call it score text. And we'll open that up. And first thing we need to do is just get a reference to that text field. So, and we're using Text Mesh Pro. So using TM Pro. And we will go private text mesh pro UGI, and we'll call it text. And then in start, we will go and get that reference. So we'll go text equals get component of type text mesh pro UGI. I don't know why to click that. Okay. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to set the text in start. Oh, no, actually what I'll do is I'll do it every frame. Every frame, I'll update the text field. So I will go text.text. So the text part of the text component. And we'll say it's equal to score. And then we'll add in plus. And this is where we get our reference to our Singleton class. So we'll get a reference to the class, scoreManager.global, and then we should be able to access the score variable, and I will need to convert that to a string. And so every frame will update the score after getting it from start. So with that done, we'll head back into Unity, and I will add the text score text to our actual text object. So go add component, score text. So that will update the text. And what I will do, just for demonstration purposes, is I won't add our Singleton instance to the scene. Let's just say I forgot, and we'll hit play, and we'll see what happens. Boom. You can see in the hierarchy, it created a new game object. Because the score text tried to access it, and it didn't exist, our get method went ahead and created our new game object. And if I go ahead and update the score on this score manager script, you can see it is updating the score in the field. Now what happens if I try and create a new reference to score manager? So let's see if I can do that. Score manager. And you can see when I try to create a new score manager, it automatically deleted because the instance has already been established. So there'll only ever be one score manager. And if for whatever reason it's not created, when it's called upon, it will be created. And that is how you create a fairly foolproof Singleton class. If you like this video, be sure to subscribe, and I will see you in the next video. Maybe. We'll see.